Like many, I've been waiting for a truly excellent Harry Potter game since I was in the 3rd grade. There have been some decent attempts, but none that come close to truly fulfilling the fantasy of receiving your own Hogwarts admission letter. With Hogwarts Legacy, I'm happy to say that magic has finally been captured. Its open-world map absolutely nails the vibe of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. It has spellcasting combat that's stupefyingly good, the characters that inhabit it are charming and unforgettable, and it is positively brimming with countless diversions to soak up dozens of hours of your time.
The IGN video was important because the excitement with which this guy gave the review gives somebody who might have been on the fence or who might have been like, I have to, in order to support trans people, boycott this game. But then you hear somebody who's not talking about that, who's actually just talking about the game, who's talking about their love of Harry Potter, who's talking about how, like, what a great job the developers did in bringing the world to life. The reason why I've been doing a lot of these Hogwarts Legacy videos and transgender ideology videos is because I think that the gender ideology thing, at least as far as how it's portrayed in the media and on social media, is on the ropes. Now, I have a very small channel, so I'm not going to get carried away about it, but I do think that it's important to add an extra dimension to the way that people online are talking about things like anti-trans and calling people bigots. My big issue with gender ideology is that it goes too far, that it's not about rights for the people who push for it. It's about, well, special treatment. There was that TikTok video that I used in one of my earlier vids, and the girl, I think her name was Thug Baby TV.
I've known trans women. I've known trans men. I've never heard the trans men say that men need to say this, do this, behave this way in order to validate, non-binary people and other people. I have had multiple trans women tell me that we need to watch our mouths, we need to know our place, we need to not be disrespectful. And I feel like at a certain point, you have to come to the realization that you're not looking for equality. You're looking for special treatment.
Really pretty girl. I didn't really notice it when I first used it, but I mean, she's got beautiful eyes. But anyway, this Thug Baby TV girl, when she was talking about how trans women would always police her language, her gendered language, and how it was always the trans women, not the men that was doing it. So clearly people are waking up to the fact that this isn't about, again, equality. It is about special treatment, and it's about validating people who have mental problems. That there's no room for disagreement, there's no room for debate. And I said this, and I always say this, that the reason why they hate debate and they make fun of debate bros is that their ideas don't stand up to scrutiny. They understand that people disagree with them. They just want people to be afraid to disagree with them. So they talk about J.K. Rowling being anti-trans. And really, again, she doesn't believe that trans women are women. They talk about, she gave money to anti-trans organizations and to politicians who have anti-trans policies. But I haven't seen all of them. But I'm telling you, with just the way that they characterize disagreement as anti-trans and bigotry, it's probably things like the homeless shelter, where it doesn't allow trans women in it. It's a women's shelter, no trans women are allowed. That makes perfect sense. One of the issues that J.K. Rowling has around this gender ideology bullshit is the fact that anyone who claims to be a woman, who says they identify as a woman, has to be accepted as a woman. So this person can commit crimes, they can be assault women, but if they say they're a woman themselves, they don't even have to be put in a prison with men. They can be put in a prison with women simply because they said, actually I'm a woman. They can go into women's bathrooms. I've seen so many stories of so-called trans women. I'm going to say so-called because it's one thing for someone to have gender dysphoria and have an issue with, I think I should have been a woman, and then they get transitioned and they go on about their lives and they don't cause trouble. It's another when you have these weirdos putting on makeup, putting on a dress, go into a woman's locker room or a spa, take off all the clothes, no transition, no bottom surgery, and they're staring at the woman, staring at the kids, showing their junk off, and it's almost like daring anyone to speak out against it. That's perfectly normal for an actual woman to be concerned about that. But because, again, the issue for trans activists is that we're supposed to disbelieve people and take them at their word, You can't voice any criticism. You can't voice any concern. You can't make policies that say, hey, look, these are the very rigid, strict rules that we have for like trans women in sports or going into a bathroom or whatever. So say all of this to say, the IGN review, the video review, I was pleasantly surprised that they didn't mention the controversy, even though, and I knew this was going to happen. I didn't see the pinned comment the first time I watched the video, so I don't know if it went up exactly at the same time they released the video or they did it later because people, complained. But I knew when I watched the video and they didn't do a disclaimer, I figured, they're going to put it in the print review. But that's not really the same thing. It's sort of like a compromise. A lot of people are not going to pay attention to the disclaimer. They're going to skim over that or skip it entirely. The fact that they didn't put it in the video is important. Even though, regular everyday YouTubers or just, people like ACG, Gamer Ranks, when they did their Before You Buy, they didn't talk about the controversy. They just talked about the game because they know that's what's important. But for IGN, which is mainstream media outlet, in bed or friends with a lot of these other, gaming outlets and people like Patrick Klepek, who went after them. And I guess anybody else who reviewed the game, even if they put a disclaimer, he was still mad that they would even cover it. So you're supposedly a journalist, but you're mad at people not covering up a story. You're advocating for people to cover up a story as opposed to covering it. Patrick Klepek, he's the type of guys who, if he was to install socialism somewhere, it would rapidly descend into fascism. He doesn't care about the difference between someone supporting trans rights but also not believing that they're actually the gender that they say they are. He just doesn't want people to openly and publicly state it, like I was saying earlier. He's not to be taken seriously. He basically admits that gaming journalism isn't about being a journalist. It's about deciding what stories can be covered, who should be ignored, who should be punished because of, some disagreement, and all of it under the guise of we're protecting the rights of trans people. Trans people are not that important that you have to shut everything down just to make them feel better, especially when it's not about all trans people. It's just about trans women who insist that you have to validate that they're actually the gender and sex that they say they are. They're not. Nobody's ever going to believe it. They can push it as much as they want. So the IGN review, again, they're mad because they know even with the compromise of putting the disclaimer in the pinned comment and in the actual print review, more eyes are going to be on the video review. And it gives people who are on the fence about this game, it gives people who actually love Harry Potter. Because the great thing about the video, despite the fact that they didn't, there was no disclaimers, is that they went full on, excited about the Harry Potter universe, excited about being a Harry Potter fan, excited about being a gamer in general, or playing a game in general. Maybe they consider gamer a slur. I love how they didn't, when they talked about the Goblin Uprising, they didn't call it anti-Semitic or hint that, well, it might be problematic, but what can we do? Goblins are not Jews. One of the reasons why they keep saying that is because they want to add more fuel to the fire. They want to add more offenses that J.K. Rowling is supposedly to have committed. Somebody like Sean. Sean knows that she's not anti-trans, but he still doesn't like the fact that she openly, stated the difference between trans women and women. So he does a 10-hour video going over every word in the Potter books to call her fatphobic, racist, anti-Semite, so on. But anyway, again, the IGN video was important because the excitement with which this guy gave the review gives somebody who might have been on the fence or who might have been like, I have to, in order to support trans people, boycott this game. But then you hear somebody who's not talking about that, who's actually just talking about the game, who's talking about their love of Harry Potter, who's talking about how, what a great job the developers did in bringing the world to life. Now all of a sudden you're not thinking about, I have to think about the fact that J.K. Rowling is anti-trans, so I can't play it. Now you sit back and go, wow, that sounds really good. That sounds really exciting. I actually do want to play it. I know that the Council of Geeks was like, you pirate it. Maybe you can buy it secondhand. I think the whole, again, this whole idea that you have to consider the ethics of playing a video game absolutely absurd. It's really about punishing Rowling for not 100% agreeing with them. They're full of shit when they characterize things as anti-trans when it's not anti-trans. It's just, I don't agree that these people are women, or a shelter that's for women should not admit men who claim to be trans. Who knows? They may be turning real trans women away, but real trans women should have another place that they can go to. So it's like, well, I won't get into it again about how people don't really care about trans issues like that. And again, when I say that, I never say look, they hate trans people. It's somebody even said, It's not transphobia, it's trans apathy. People have enough problems to deal with. Someone with mental or gender dysphoria, body dysmorphia, they've got their own set of issues to deal with. It's not our job to affirm them constantly, and they victimize trans people so much in the narrative. Everything is harm. If you don't believe that they're the gender that they say they are, it's harm. If the most powerful author in the world says, I want to protect the rights of women, we're all supposed to believe that because she said that, trans people are getting attacked in the streets because Harry Potter fans are suddenly turned virulently violent against trans people. It's not even about separating the art from the artist at this point. Quentin Tarantino is my favorite living filmmaker. I don't agree with anything he says about Bruce Lee, the Beatles. I know he did this. I don't even know if that's in the actual film. I think there was a cut scene where Vincent Vega was talking about the difference between an Elvis man and a Beatles man. Don't agree with that shit. There's a lot of shit about that he says I don't agree with, but that doesn't stop me from loving his films. Like, I could disagree with him and still love his films. So, I don't know. But again, the importance of the IGN video was it allowed people distance from constantly hearing about a failed boycott that was overexposed to begin with. Most people agree with Rowling, and this is about video games. This is about what people enjoy. Council of Geeks did that little short about you're transphobe, no debate. And most of the comments were basically, hey, go fuck yourself. Trans people were saying it. I don't care. I'm more interested in playing this game. I don't want to hear this shit. This is not what this is about. Yeah, so IGN will probably mess it up. They'll probably do a video where they pretend to really address the ethical issue of whether or not you should buy it because of what a raging transphobe J.K. Rowling is, even though they won't really point out that she actually just doesn't believe trans women are women. She said she supported, but that's a dog whistle these days. If you say, hey, I support this, but you're really just saying that to provide cover for your actual bigotry. So, the believe all women, the believe the person who says they are what they say they are the first people to say, no matter what you say, I'm not going to take it seriously if I don't agree. I'm going to say that you're dog whistling and that you really hate what you're criticizing. So, yeah, IGN will probably mess up this really smart move in doing a video review of a video game that, yeah, there's controversy around it, but the controversy is not as important as they were trying to, the people pushing it were trying to make out. And again, it failed, and it failed spectacularly. There's no reason to keep giving oxygen to these people. This week and probably next week, they're going to go after a bunch of people, these lunatics. I just say they should just weather the storm. Streamers, I know this one guy got chased off of doing a stream, which to me is like, I don't know the guy's situation. I know his girlfriend cried. I don't understand why you wouldn't just be like, whatever, you people can do the hate brigade all you want to. I'm going to finish tonight's session and I'll go again tomorrow. Maybe you turn off the comments. I don't know if that affects how you get super chats or money. I don't know, whatever. But if you're serious about streaming this game, knowing how people act, then you should just see it through. Don't just bitch out because, well, the comments are really mean, So I think IGN would have been better served not to make any comments, to just full on. It would be super based to do like what the YouTubers do. They don't mention it. They talk about the game. This is what they like. This is what they don't like. It's worth buying. It's not worth buying. Move on. IGN should have done that. They should have set a much better standard going forward. And like I said, they'll probably regress, like I said, and mess it up and then just go back to virtue signaling. But right now, I think that their video review was great. They handled it well. And it'll give people who were on the fence or who were like really afraid to play the game, let them consider that, what, if these guys can enjoy it and not make a big stink about it, then maybe I could do that, the same thing too. Like, me not playing the game is not going to help trans people. Me playing the game is not going to hurt trans people. This is about something that I enjoy. I've enjoyed this forever.